Good day everyone, my name is Mubarak Yusuf and we are in the third video of our pressure volume loop. I believe you guys are enjoying the video and I believe I'm trying all my best to make it look so simple. So now what we're going to talk about in this pressure volume loop is how our afterload and our preload affect the pressure volume loop, right? But before we talk about that, can you just zoom in a little bit so I can explain a very simple concept there. So before we talk about that, let's first explain the concept of our stroke volume and our ejection fraction. So our stroke volume is defined as the difference between our end diastolic volume and our end systolic volume. Our end diastolic volume and our end systolic volume. And that's our stroke volume right there. That's our stroke volume right there. And our ejection fraction on the other hand is defined as the stroke volume divided by our end diastolic volume. So in a condition whereby you have an increase in stroke volume, you have without changing your end diastolic volume, you're quite likely to have increase in ejection fraction, right? So, and I believe everyone understands this simple concept. So now let's dive straight into explaining our afterload and our preload affects our pressure volume loop. So I'll be using these two markers right now. I'll be using these two markers. So the red one I'll use it for increased afterload and the green one I'll use it for increased preload. So when we talk about increased afterload, right? Let me just use, for example, increase in aortic pressure. The thing is your heart has to overcome more pressure in the aorta for it to eject blood out, right? That just makes sense. I believe that makes sense. So if you have to overcome more pressure to eject more blood out, so therefore the graph will look something like this. The pressure has to go all the way up before it can eject blood out, because the heart used all its energy, all its efforts in building up this pressure. Now the heart will not be able to eject sufficient amount of blood out, and this is what we see in, for example, our aortic stenosis, right? There's increase in aortic pressure. There's increase in aortic pressure. We can also call this our afterload. So in increase in aortic pressure, what we have is that there is decrease in end systolic volume. Because there's decrease in end systolic volume right now, so there will be increase, there will be decrease, there's increase in end systolic volume, so there will be decrease in our stroke volume, and there's decrease in our stroke volume, and there's no change in our end diastolic volume, so therefore there will also be decrease in ejection fraction, right? So this is basically how our increase in afterload, and it is our aortic pressure, increase in aortic pressure. So for example, when you say a question describing aortic stenosis and telling you about all descriptions, second intercostal space, crescendo, decrescendo, murmur, weak pulse, and now they ask you about pressure volume, I believe this will help you now to be able to smash those kind of questions. So basically, the next thing we're going to talk about now is how our preload affects our pressure volume loop. Now preload means the amount of blood in the heart before it ejects blood out. So when we talk about the amount of blood in the heart before it ejects blood out, that is, there's just increase in our end diastolic volume, but there's no change in our afterload. So therefore the graph will be something like this, and this increase in end diastolic volume. So if there's increase in end diastolic volume and there's no change in our end systolic volume, so we're likely to have increase in stroke volume, but there won't be change in ejection fraction because there's increase in stroke volume and there's increase in end diastolic volume. So basically this is how our afterload and our preload affect our pressure volume loop, and I believe this helped. And in our next video we should our contractility affected, and also I'll try to integrate our aortic regurgitation. Most books don't talk about how aortic regurgitation affect our pressure volume loop. Thank you very much.